Welcome. I'm going to call a regular meeting of our Town Planning and Zoning Commission to order for today, Monday, October 3rd, 2022 at 6:30 p.m.-ish. Close enough. My name is Rob Klee. I'm the chair of our Woodbridge Town Plan and Zoning Commission. Other members of the commission with us here tonight are Paul Schatz, Yoni Zamir, Kathleen Hunter, Robert Reed, Andrew Skolnick, Jeff Kennedy, and our newest member, full member, alternate member?
Alternate.
Our newest alternate member, Chadi Nujim. Welcome. Thank you for your service, for joining us. Yeah, good. Chris Sullivan, thank you as always for your support, and it's nice to be here in person. Our agenda tonight is available on the town website, as are materials in support of the two public hearings that we're going to hold tonight. The first public hearing was scheduled to be a continuation of the public hearing on the application of Luciani Properties LLC for a special exception permit according to section 3.3N of our zoning regulations, for the excavation, removal, filling, grading, and et cetera for constructing two single-family residences at 110 Luciani's Road. Our second public hearing is on the application of Anytime Sport LLC for a special exception permit under Table 3.1, Section 3.3BB of our zoning regulations for the use of the building at 136 Bradley Road as a commercial recreation and fitness indoor soccer facility. So we're going to have our public hearings first tonight, then we'll go to new business and our work session. Is that right, Chris?
That's correct.
Sounds good. So let's begin by reopening our continued public hearing for Luciani Properties LLC. But Chris, do you have an update on the status of our applicant, who I don't see here in the room?
So late Friday evening, we received revised plans. Those were sent off to our consulting engineer, Jim Preety from Criscolo Engineering, this morning. And the applicant's engineer also furnished a list of the things that he had changed to make it easier for our consultant to review those plans. But Jim couldn't review them in time for this evening's meeting, so I appraised the applicant of that. He has granted you an extension of time to continue the hearing because you only have 35 days once you start the hearing to conclude the hearing. So he's given you an extension of time until your regular meeting on November 7th to continue the hearing. But I should note that there were some items that were submitted to you that we should just enter into the record. You all have copies of them. One was an email that was sent out from Randolph Zekichi, I hope, and that was dated October 3rd. And then we do have the summary, which I also gave to you, from Paul Stoll, who's the licensed surveyor for the applicant. We also have email from town council advising both you and the applicant on the ability of the applicant to cross across the town-owned right-of-way for the road in terms of developing the individual lots. And then you do have the letter of consent from the applicant to extend the hearing. And then one other item that was in there at the last meeting, we had an individual who had submitted some pictures of cracked basements that didn't get entered into the hearing record the last time, so that is also been distributed to you. And likewise, you had photographs that were submitted by Rosalie Rowland, and so I did make copies of those and distributed those to you, and those are also in the file. But those photos were distributed or submitted at the hearing on September 6th. So that's where we stand at the moment. And you've also gotten this evening your own hard copy of the revised plans.
Thank you, Chris. And that's this packet that we all have
Yes.
in front of us this morning for this evening. Plus, all of those will be uploaded to
They've
the
been
website.
all uploaded up to the town website, so everything pretty much is up there at this stage of the game.
Terrific. And so, though the applicant has granted us this extension of this proceeding until our next regularly scheduled meeting of November 7th, there are possibly members of the public here who may want to have public comments, so we could do that
We could do that,
in,
since
We're-
they've made the trip out.
they have, in a awfully cold and wet and rainy day. So happy to have public hearing, public comment from folks, unless there are any procedural or other questions that folks on the commission have for Chris Sullivan about what what is in front of us or what the schedule is going forward. And Chris, remind me, who are the folks who are on this one, and/or do we need?
You haven't
a sub-
selected that at this stage of the game, so when you actually go to do your vote, then it's dependent on who's here that evening and who has been present for all, or is familiar with all of the hearing record.
Gotcha. So, Jody, you weren't here for our meeting last time, but it is recorded.
It's recorded, I can send you the link to that so that you can watch that,
And for the record, I have to be.
Oh, that's right, Jeff.
So I
I'm
wasn't
sorry.
here. No, so.
I ignored you entirely.
Totally ignored. No,
Because
so
you
if
buy
I,
drinks now.
if I wanted to vote, I'd have to review it. What's that?
You buy drinks now.
Okay, that's fine.
Good.
After today, not a problem. Good.
Okay. Any other procedural questions for Chris before we open it up for our members of the public for their 3 minutes?
I have a
of public
question.
comment?
So, Chris, the applicant is going to come back because they have to, or they want to?
because of the late filing of the revised plans, your consulting engineer had no opportunity to review them. So there was no point in him coming and discussing it without having your engineer review it, see if he's got any additional comments that may or may not need to be addressed, and then go from there.
So the applicant does not have to come back.
He will be back.
He will be back.
Yep.
Okay.
And Paul, procedurally, because we opened our hearing, we have a certain time
Yep.
limit to conclude our hearing unless the applicant grants us an extension of time, which the applicant has done in this case.
I just had a quick question, because I thought, one of the questions that for the applicant was to talk to the town to see whether or not the town was planning on doing the turnaround, and
That's what I gave you, the thing from town council.
But
The
it-
town has no intention, I've spoken with Warren Connors, of improving the rest of the turnaround, which was done at the time of the subdivision. The town did not do the improvements, the subdivider did.
so the town is now planning on making an improvement.
No, but the applicant has the right to develop, to be able to create an access going into his property from the road as it exists.
Okay, and that's interpreted from this email.
Okay.
It's just that the applicant does not have the right to put an improvement such as drainage galleries or something like that in the town-owned property. Those would all have to be on the applicant's property. But as anyone who has a driveway crossing a town road right-of-way, they have a right to cross a town road.
Any other questions? No? Oh, well, we will shift to our public hearing mode where your folks are encouraged and invited to have 3 minutes of testimony. But during our public comment session, it is an opportunity for you to provide comment, and we listen. We actually aren't allowed to actually have it exchange back and forth. That's just the rules of how the public comment portion works. So unless we have any other questions on the commission side?
Nothing new.
Okay. So if anyone would like to come forward and give public comment, I will start with my description. This portion of our public hearing is for the purpose of listening to your comments. You'll each have up to 3 minutes for your brief statements into the record. As a reminder, the TPC members and the applicants will not be answering the questions you raise, but your public statements and written comments that might be submitted to the town will become part of the public record for the TPC to consider when reviewing this application. As a reminder to everyone, off-the-record communication with a member of the commission on the merits of the application is prohibited, and we ask that you keep your comments brief and focused on the proposed special exception permit, and try to avoid unreasonable repetition so we can hear all the concerns of your neighbors. And I will be using my phone's timer function, so you will hear I don't know what music it plays, but it plays it after 3 minutes. But please, when you come up to the microphone, introduce yourself and where you're.
Rose, can you all hear
Is
us?
the microphone on, Chris? Or no?
We couldn't hear most of the things that you, so
don't
I
think
don't know
any
if
of
they
it's
were
actually-
on.
This doesn't amplify to you, this records to them.
Okay. Is it on?
It
Yeah,
is.
okay.
So if you can introduce yourself. and
Okay,
make sure you
Rosalie
sign in.
Rowland, 102 Luciani Road. We've been here before, and it's a shame that we're coming back. But my question is, only one question tonight. I'd like to know who exactly owns this property. So if you guys could look into it, and ladies, I'd appreciate who actually owns this property. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
My name is Peter J. Cofrancesco, Sr., from 108 Luciani Street. The only concerns I have is blasting and hammering with the big machine and with the big fitting on that machine, the big hammer. That's all I could say. I have got cracks in my foundation. I get water in my garage due to the first gentleman who sold this property to this other gentleman. And that's my only concern I have. I hope you guys do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, very much for your testimony. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to provide comment at this time? So, seeing none, thank you to the folks who came tonight. There will be another opportunity on November 7th at the same time, 6:30, again on November.
the first or the second?
We'll do this first, probably.
Well, it may be, no, you have another application coming in tonight, so I don't know yet what you're gonna decide.
We will I think, try to have it first. We will aim in, but it will definitely be posted on the website in advance. So there's also a month between now and then. If there are folks who, I know we have already received in the record written comments, we welcome them as well. And I guess anything else to say at this point? Other than I think we need a motion to continue this public hearing per the applicant's letter allowing that continuation.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion on the motion to continue the hearing? Seeing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? None. We will see this again in a month. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
So next up on our agenda for tonight is the application of Anytime Sport LLC for 136 Bradley Road for a special exception permit under Table 3.1, Section 3.3 BB of our zoning regulations to use the building at 136 Bradley Road as a commercial recreation and fitness indoor soccer facility. Do we have anyone here on behalf of the applicant? Hi. Welcome. If you'd like to come up to the microphone and sign in and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your proposed business at 136 Bradley Road.
So I'm representing Anytime Sport LLC, and our intention, we also.
Could you,
Sorry,
just
my
your
name
name.
is Anna.
Thank you,
My
Anna.
name is Anna Mubarak, and so thank you guys for allowing me to come this evening and to present our idea for having the commercial recreational fitness indoor soccer facility at 136 Bradley Road. So Anytime Sport also owns 110 Bradley Road, and we already have an indoor tennis facility there. So our idea, after buying both parcels, 110 and 136, was to try and make it a place where families can come and have more than one sport for their children. And so we thought of, in constructing indoor soccer in the building, the brick building that's currently empty on 136 Bradley Road. So we wanted to propose to you guys to try and get a special permit to go ahead and do that. Obviously, there's adequate space to do that with the building, and we feel with an already well-established tennis facility, it would make it convenient as a one-stop destination for youth and for parents alike to enjoy the physical and mental benefits of both exercise and sports in one location. I'm not quite sure if there's any other town that has tennis and soccer in one place, but we thought it would be hugely beneficial to the Woodbridge community as a whole. And I have presented the indoor soccer facility narrative to you guys, a list of abating property owners and site plans as well, in the package that I've given to Christine already. So I don't know if you have any questions or.
So I will open it up to commission members if you have any questions regarding the proposed application.
So right now, is it Tennis Central the name?
Tennis Central,
Okay,
yeah.
so that, I know that building, and there's a separate building, there's a brick building on the same property?
And no, it's on 136, which is adjacent, right next to 110.
I can't picture it. So there's gonna be construction at 136?
136, yeah. The building is already there, so
Yeah.
it would just be construction and cleaning on the inside to make it into an indoor soccer facility rather than just an empty building.
So the footprint's not changing?
No, not at all. You might have to, so in the site plans, you'll see we might have to remove some stuff, but there's adequate space and everything already that's needed there to go ahead and start the work. Yeah.
And it would have similar hours to Tennis Central?
It's a really good question. We were thinking of potentially doing 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. during the weekday, and then during the weekends, probably 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. So similar, yes, kind of similar, but maybe slightly later on the weekend than Tennis Central would be open. Yeah. Because we've done some research, and we realize a lot of people, I don't know, after work, soccer is in high demand, sometimes more so than tennis. Yeah.
So this would be mostly children
Or would this be all age?
We're thinking right now that we would cater to wherever there's a demand, so from children to adults as well. Because again, our research with other indoor soccer facilities shows that all ages like to play soccer.
Sure.
And it's the same thing at Tennis Central right now too. We have kids as well as adults.
And would you have enough parking if tennis programs and soccer were going on? I think so. I'm trying to see the building. I know Bradley Road.
Yeah, so right now at Tennis Central, we have more than enough parking. But we also have ample parking for 136 as well. And the site plans here, is kind of small, but you can see all the all the space that we have behind the building as well as in front of the building, for parking. So
Sure.
it would be adequate or more than adequate.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Chairman, I have a couple questions. My first question is, you have CFC in Bethany.
Mhm.
And
I've
I'm
seen
sure-
it, yeah.
I'm sure you're familiar with.
I've seen
with
it, yeah.
that. Have you been inside?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
ginormous.
I know, I went inside.
So are you competing against CFC? Or are you trying to draw the same type of, you said all ages of soccer, but
Right.
I'm thinking somewhere between mid-juniors up through high school
Yeah,
for, you know, for your main, the main players that are going to be playing in indoor soccer. Are you looking at competing against CFC? Is it, or is it, what's the alternative, I guess? I mean, what's the point of differentiation between going 5 miles up the road to CFC in a brand-new facility
Absolutely.
versus a refurbished? I know you guys, you know, I'm saying refurbished because the building is already there. CFC was built from the ground up.
right.
What's the point of differentiation? Just, you think there's still space out there needed to fill?
Yeah, I think definitely, after speaking to people who know indoor soccer, it seems like the demand is definitely still there, even if the one in CFC is there as well. But we have the added benefit of, you know, a one-stop destination for tennis and soccer. So instead of parents having to spend time going to CFC for soccer and then going to another facility for tennis, they could come to 110 and 136, which are basically right next to each other, and have the kids or family members who are interested in both or interested in one or the other all in one spot. So I don't know, it might be competition, but that was never our intention. It was more of to because we already have tennis and we have space, why not make it? And also in the future, it may not just be tennis and soccer, because we do have a lot of land that we can develop. So we're also thinking of potentially pickleball, maybe one day putting pickleball in there, because that's an ever-growing sport. And I actually manage North Haven Health and Racket as well. And we have pickleball there, we have 6 tennis courts, we have 5 racquetball courts, we have an indoor track, and I see the benefits of having a variety of amenities in one place for families. So I say, why not replicate it here in Woodbridge, where it would be so beneficial with the land that we have and the space that we have here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Couple follow-ups. How many fields are you thinking about putting inside? I haven't been inside that building. I don't know the footprint.
That's
So
a good question. Yeah, so I mean, do you think maybe one field could fit inside?
only one.
Yeah, so just a one to start with. There is, I don't know if you guys have also heard about futsal, which
Yeah.
is, yeah, and that, I don't know how many fields of those, but for a regular sized soccer field, it would only fit one soccer, for a regular sized soccer field.
Okay.
Yeah.
So isn't there, down at the
Everson?
Everson?
Yeah.
He's still there, correct?
He's still there, and he has soccer, and he has volleyball, and I think he also has basketball, but no tennis.
Okay.
And then he has no pickleball, which we foresee, like in the future, we have that definitely in mind. In fact, I'm having a pickleball lady come this week to look at the land and look at Tennis Central and see how we could move forward with that at some point too.
Okay.
So just trying to add a little bit of different amenities than what Everson has, to make it more appealing, and then also just to add to the area in general, and for families to have, you know, not just what Everson has, but tennis as well as pickleball, which is not there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So last question for now. Are you planning on adding a concession stand? Beer and wine, soda? CFC, hey,
Yeah.
they do it. You got to entertain the parents while they're sitting there watching the 10-year-old run around.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. So it's funny you say that, because we have a space at North Haven Health and Racket. I don't know who's familiar with that, but that's located on 100 Elm Street. It's a huge building, and we have a space right now where I was thinking of actually putting in like a snack place, or like a healthy snack place, or protein shakes or something for people to have, but we haven't thought of it. But I mean, we've thought of it, but we don't have it in these plans right now. But it's a great idea, obviously, if family is coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No more questions.
What is the present use of 136 Bradley Road?
It's empty. It's vacant.
Is it already owned by any Times Square LLC?
Yes.
And can you tell me, what was the former use of that building?
I think it was used as a refuge before. Parati, they used it, but it's been years now since it's been actually used at all. Don't recall the last year, but it's been years since it's been used, and it's been vacant for a while.
It was an indoor skate park.
an
At one
indoor
point,
skate park too.
and prior to that, it was where there was trash trucks that
Refuge.
were stored.
Inside?
Yes, from Parade's business, that's when it was originally constructed, which is why it has all the doors on the sides and whatnot.
Yeah.
There wasn't no manufacturing of hazardous use of materials or anything like that in there.
It's just garbage.
Garbage, yeah.
And it was just
Refuge.
a warehouse
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
With, I'm assuming, fairly high ceilings.
But yeah, high, and I looked at the height requirement by the United States Soccer Federation, and it meets the requirements that's needed for that.
It does seem kind of long and skinny for a
Right,
soccer
I mean, that,
field.
Yeah.
that was my question, my next question was
Yeah.
whether or not there was like I don't know what you call it, like a sports engineer, to come in to make sure, because, you know, I guess our concern is just the safety of
Of
kids
course,
playing
yeah.
soccer, and it seems like there isn't a lot of perimeter, and
Yeah.
being a experienced soccer mom, I know the kids kind of could run off into
I know.
things, and just don't
Yeah.
want to see them like run into a concrete, you know, barrier or something.
Yeah.
So I just, has somebody,
Yeah, we
Okay.
did get someone who has indoor soccer facility right now, and he took a look at it, and he said, yeah, it should be more than fine to have the safety requirements that's needed too, as well as the field.
right, is there an actual like certification process just to make sure that it is safe, just based on the design of
Of
The
what,
faci-
how it's constructed.
Right.
Well, we have an architect who's working with us, as you can see from the plans, and then we are consulting with another, like an indoor soccer person as well. I don't know if a certification is required,
Right.
but I
Yeah,
can
I don't
cer-
know either. I
I can
just-
certainly find
yeah.
out, and then, but we're doing everything that would typically be done by other indoor soccer facilities, based on the research we've done so far, yeah. And I know that, our architect will, you know, will make sure that everything is in place that needs to be in place. And then, like I said, we'll continue to consult with other people who do indoor soccer too. Yeah, but that's a really good question. I'll definitely make sure of that.
So this field, the design the specs that we're looking at here, this field is to spec USGA, United States Soccer Association.
Yes, yes.
So I'm assuming these dotted lines that are on the design, those are the end lines or sidelines for the soccer field. And it looks like you might have a couple feet from the end line to the wall.
Yeah,
So maybe there's a suggestion of putting up some type of pads on the wall, you know.
yeah, I mean, I just have visions in my.
Well, no, I mean, you know, I understand as well, so.
I do too, yeah.
You know, but if you're gonna have, you know, again, you have these kids that are running full speed at 10, 12 years old, and they have about 3 feet to stop.
Right,
I mean, you see what I'm saying? If
yeah.
there's at least some padding
yeah,
on the exterior or the interior walls, the side of the end line, all the way around 360,
yeah,
then, you know, when the kids are knocked down or whatever, God forbid, there's something there for safeguard. So maybe think through that,
okay.
that scenario with your, you know, with your
Definitely,
planner.
yeah. And I know when I went to the one in Bethany, the CFC, they had nettings up as well. So all of that we've considered, because we've gone around to look at that, and we've seen another one, Gold Sport as well. So we've been going around and looking and consulting with more than one person who does indoor soccer.
Other questions from commission members? So, I have a question, but it might also be for Chris. I was trying to decipher our current regulations here. So this shows up on 3.3 BB, which, apologies, is in our table 3.1, which 3.3 BB is a lot about parking garages, public parking lots. And then you flip the page that it's also about recreation and business commercial, which requires a special exception in this zone. And then
Hence the hearing.
hence our hearing. And then I went to look at the description of BB in our rules, page 40, and it only talks about structured garages. So is that just
All I can tell you is your regs need to be looked at.
Yes, I know. I just wanted to sort of highlight that for those who are wondering why we're having the sort of refresh of our regulations. This is one of those examples where this is both lumped together with parking garages, which it's not.
No, it's-
And there isn't any specific guidance here on how we should approach a fitness area, although the table does also distinguish between things that are under 10,000 square feet and over 10,000 square feet. So there was even a decision to have those two different categories, and yet we don't have guidance on how to treat those categories here. I just am, and this is nothing about you or your application, it's more about how we should think about this on our end. So then we just basically go to our general rules of special exceptions, which are in the back, right, Chris?
Yep. In section 6, I think.
Yep, 6.3, page 100, which talks about, you know, the things that you've gone over of the building use and location and parking and landscaping, signage. Will it, on those sort of questions, Mike, because you now own both of those properties, and again, apologies, I haven't been down there in a while, is that, will they have separate entrances to the parking areas, or will they be connected across the property?
That's a really good question, because right now, as it stands, because we've cut the grass and, you know, there's good landscaping right now on 110, there is a way for people to walk across. We prefer not to, but we are thinking of, right now it's 2 separate entrances that we would use, but we are thinking at some point if we have multi-sports or even just the two sports, just, and especially with winter, to make it more efficient for the customers who want to walk from the tennis to the soccer, to try and link them at some point. Yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't have any other questions.
Do you have
Yoni.
signs up now for the tennis, and will you have signs, I assume, for the soccer then? Like,
Yeah.
just a sign identifying what it is, right?
Yeah, so Tennis Central has a sign on the building.
Right.
A big sign that says Tennis Central right now.
Yeah.
Right now, the vacant building doesn't have any sign, but we would put a sign up, and then probably also at Tennis Central itself, and then at the soccer facility itself, let them know, you know, tennis can also be found over here, 110, and then soccer can also be found 136.
Sure.
Yeah. And we
you.
might put it where it's more obvious signage, not just on the building itself, but maybe by the road, where Tennis Central's entrance is, and then where the soccer entrance is, where it's when the cars are passing that way, they'll be able to differentiate and tell what's available where.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from commission members? The application. Seeing none, thank you very much for the presentation and
Thank
for
you.
the materials you provided. I will now move to the public hearing portion of this, the public comment, portion of this application. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak on regarding this application of Anytime Sport LLC for 136 Bradley Road for a special exception permit for use of the building as a commercial recreation and fitness indoor facility? I see none. So with that, unless there are any final questions, remember this is our last chance as our board to ask the applicant before we go into our business section. Any going once, going twice? None? So a motion to close our public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on closing the public hearing? Hearing none. All in favor of closing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Any abstentions? Terrific. We're now new business before our work session. Thank you, Chris. Always keeping me on the straight and narrow. So, and you can stay. We'll come to this quickly. So, Chris, we've received a new application, and it's a application for 3-lot subdivision with open space. I don't,
And Alan Shepard is here.
oh, we have our applicant here. What's our, what is our procedural process? We haven't had a subdivision lately.
Statutorily, a subdivision does not require a public hearing. Historically, the commission has never shied away from allowing the public to speak and has always had hearings both on subdivisions and on re-subdivisions. As part of the subdivision application, an applicant either asks for a waiver of open space or provides open space. And typically what you do is you look to the Conservation Commission to provide some input on that as to whether or not what's being proposed, if there is something proposed, is something that's, you know, part of their open space plan and all that other good stuff. So in this particular case, on your site plans that you've got before you, there is a considerable piece of open space that's proposed, but Alan can go
Yeah.
over that if you want.
So you've come tonight, Alan, so unless there's any objection from the commission, it'd be nice to have you present your subdivision plan, recognizing we literally just got them.
Like now.
Like, right now, so,
I'll just go over the
and
introduction.
if you could introduce yourself for the record.
For the record, I'm Alan Shepard, professional engineer and partner in the firm of Noah Koski of Beaman, Chow and Kane. And it's funny, because you guys said that, my son said to me the other day, he goes, Dad, we're not doing subdivisions like we used to. We used to do subdivisions, you know, every other week, you know, and there are really not as many going on now, so. But there are some lands that this is no road involved, but it is a subdivision because it's more than 2 lots, you know, it's a subdivision. So the owner has had it for a couple of years now, 15 years or so. His mother lives in one of the front lots, and he's looking to sell off a couple lots and retain the 7-acre parcel for himself. We did go through conservation a while ago, open space, a couple of years ago now, and maybe different board members, and this was the open space they wanted then. I assume that it's the same, it's still a good chunk of open space, with strip access into the road. So, and we have obtained the wetland approval. So, you know, it's a pretty straightforward application, I think, but it is a subdivision.
And can you give us kind of the vital statistics? How many acres is the original parcel? How many acres will be the
We got
different pieces?
30 acres in the original parcel. We're cutting up to 3 lots, and that works out to a 5-acre parcel, a 4.5-acre parcel. We're giving a chunk to open space. I think that's about 8 acres. I think the remainder is about 7 acres. So the remainder lot, this is a large one. The owner's gonna retain that for himself. He's kind of deciding what he wants to do with it, and that's open to debate. But the other 2 lots, he figures he'll put on the market.
And I have not yet unfolded my
There you
set
go.
of maps with, and maybe you can help me from not doing that. How are the lots accessed? Are they, will it be a road? I'm assuming they're not all on the road.
They're all frontage, they're all access road. They have access to the main road.
This is why I should actually open it up.
So if you take a look at it,
Go to the second page,
Second page.
and you'll see that it has detailed plans, development plans where it shows the driveways. So the second sheet kind of shows the overall plan, how the lots are laid out with the driveway access.
And even the open space lot, it does have a connection to the road?
Yes, I brought that all the way down to the road, figuring that that would be a nice access to do that. And if you take, you know, whether you walk out there or not, it's up to you guys. But where lot number 3, where I got the access is down below, it's an elevation drop of about 15 feet, 10 to 15 feet. So anybody walking in and out of there, you won't see them from lot number 3. So it kind of lays with the land, in other words, where we have it. And then we have a good chunk of open space in back, which some of that is upland, some of it's wet, there's a wet, area in the back, a bowl. It's nice land,
What type of wetlands are they?
that is, that is, excuse me. I'm sure that is a kettle, which meant that glaciers melted enough to boil it. So it's a quite nice wetland in fact.
As part of the application, I didn't get enough to give all of you tonight, but there is, but I'll scan it and put it up on the website. There is the Wetlands Consulting report, which was submitted with the wetlands application, and that goes into detail exactly about the wetlands. And there's more than one that is present on the property, so that information, I can give you paper copies if you want, otherwise it will be up on the website if you just want to read it. And you'll also be getting the copy of the permit that will be issued by Wetlands, which was approved at their meeting a week ago.
Other questions from commission members at this time?
Am I looking at this correctly, these plans, it shows, it looks like, single-family homes is probably what's going to be built on each of these? Am I?
Definitely, yes. And, yeah, the single-family homes, and then, like I said, the applicant's mother lives in the one right across from Rimmon Hill Road. As long as she's living there and healthy, you know, I think that's the way it's gonna be, you know, she's gonna stay in her own house.
TPs instead. Yeah, TPs, yeah.
So your lot one, how many acres is lot one?
Lot one is 7 acres,
And then lot two?
is 4.5 acres.
Your little picture up in the corner here is very helpful.
Good.
Okay, so 7 acres for lot one and then 4.5 acres lot two, right?
Yeah,
And then how many for three?
5 acres.
5, okay.
So
you
they're
said
good
that.
sized parcels.
Yeah, and the
And-
open space is what, Alan, in the upper right-hand corner?
I think that was,
Except
yeah, I think,
The open space parcel, according to the map, is about 8 acres.
Oh. So that, I was just looking at the
wetlands
upper
and
right-hand
wetlands,
corner.
Yeah,
It
now
just kinda,
when you look at,
Yeah.
the first sheet, it
Yep.
has the acreage and it has the percentage of slopes and the area of wetlands on this parcel,
okay.
as well as in the table, which is
right,
at
we
the
have,
top of the first sheet.
so when you say acreage nowadays, is it excluding wetlands or steep slopes? I always gotta think about that.
Other questions from commission members at this time? Apologies to the AV folks if we're hitting the microphones with these big sheets. I know that hurts your ears. I guess if there are no specific questions now, the question for us is this something that we would want to have a scheduled public hearing for? Can I open it up for commission members for their reactions?
I don't think we need to.
Chris, do you sense that there's any controversy here?
When we had the wetlands, application, there was one neighbor who came and asked questions, so. I do note that this just came in on Friday, so there is a required notice that we have to send, to the town of Seymour and to the town of Ansonia because they are abutting. And since this came in on Friday, I have not sent that notice out yet, so you should at least, at a minimum, not make a decision this evening because that notice needs to go out. What we can also do is send out a notice to the abutters that the application is here, and invite them, if they have a comment, to send in a comment, because you can have a public hearing and receive comment, but you can also get comment that way.
There's
That's
also
up to
a
you.
Stratford for isn't there?
Yeah, and then, well, it would be to the Valley Council of Governments, not to Scrog, because it's Seymour and Ansonia. Or
It's
is-
Woodbridge, it goes to both, I believe.
Only if it's
Subdivision?
abuts something in the Regional Council of Governments, I thought. Because the Valley Council has its own council of governments.
Well, we get in the.
I can send it to
Southern
both, it's not a
Connecticut,
big deal.
Hearings, we get, applications that involve Derby, for example, when it borders Woodbridge
Okay,
concurrently.
okay. I mean, doesn't matter, I can send it to both, it's not a big thing.
And Chris, what would the process be if Seymour or Ansonia had an issue?
They would just let you know.
That's it. So that.
They don't have,
Yeah.
they don't vote any more
Yeah.
than a member of the public votes, but they can appraise you if they have a concern, yeah.
So the process, Paul, is all formed. There, even, SCROG doesn't have any determinative authority. We only make recommendations as to whether or not it has an intermunicipal, a negative intermunicipal impact or a negative impact upon the environment of the Long Island Sound. But without the authority to sway an opinion one way or the other.
Did you said that there was an inland wetlands hearing about this already, and you said
They've
there
already
was.
processed that application.
Were you at that hearing?
I staffed them too,
You s-
yes.
Yes, so that comment you mentioned, was that something that you could share with us, the substance of it?
At that point, she was expressing concerns about a wetland issue, which was appropriate for the Wetlands Commission. Whether or not she would also have any concerns relative to your regulations, she may or may not.
And she did have a concern about a adjoining property line that I had on the map that she disagreed with, but that's in dispute in the town, so I showed it the way it was on the assessor's map. I didn't want to, and for the record, I don't want to change something that's in dispute. The town has the property line, the neighbor's property line showed a certain way, that's where I'll show it. And then if that dispute gets settled, that's something different, but I gotta go by what I see on the assessor's map.
And what she had mentioned in part also was looking at the addresses of the abutting property that she owns. She thought they were reversed, but if you actually look at the Ansonia GIS mapping, what is shown on his maps in terms of what addresses go where is exactly what their assessor's map show.
Right, so I can't change that unless she resolves that with.
I mean, she owns both pieces, it's just that, but, when you look at the actual record from Ansonia, that's what it's showing.
And Chris, when
But
was
she
that-
may or may not have other concerns. I mean, one of the things that she raised was she had a concern about whether or not the septic system from Lot 3 might have an impact on her septic system. And as the members of the Wetlands Commission pointed out, septic systems are under the jurisdiction of Quinnipiac Valley Health District from our perspective, so that they would be reviewing and regulating that. But it was a concern that she raised, and that was how they addressed it.
And Chris, when was this hearing?
It wasn't a hearing, it was they had 2 evenings of it. So they received the application in July, they had their consultant review it, review comments were made, and then they had no meeting in August, so they met again in September. In the interim, the plans had been revised to address the consultant's comments, and they acted on it then. And so they acted on it subject to each of the lots coming back to them for individual site review, because what's shown is pretty much a generic footprint. So as the sites get to be more specifically developed, they want to look at them again. But they felt that they were all capable of being developed with minimal or no impact to the wetlands that are around them or on them.
And this is public record. Has this concerned resident been made aware of these resubmissions or edits that have been made?
Yep, she was at the hearing,
And
she
she
was
was-
at their meeting. Yeah.
So her question, she has no more questions.
She
Or
was
she-
not certain that she didn't have any, you know,
I'm
we were comparing lot line, she had a map of her property which was to one scale, and then these maps were to another scale, and so trying to show where monument, the, town line monument was and iron pins that were found were, you know, unless you're using these things all the time, it can be a little bit confusing what you're looking at. So it looked to us like everything that was shown on these maps correlated with what was shown on her map. She had wetlands on her property that she thought extended over onto this property. They do a little bit, but when you look at the topography lines right after the wetlands come over onto this parcel, the topography rises right up, and so the wetlands are pretty diminuous at that point on this particular property. So,
One more sort of, where are subdivisions?
they're not in there, they're in their own set of regs,
Great.
which you can view online, or I can get you all hard copies again. They haven't been updated since 1993, I think.
Okay, a link to those. Good. Let's get back to the original question, though, of should we hold a public
That's
hearing
where
on
I'm-
this? I'm hearing, so a no. Robert, you're.
I guess I'm still on the fence, and that's where I was getting to. I haven't made up my mind yet. That's why I'm asking the questions. You know, I don't want to skip the process step of having this resident be able to come back in front of us and ask any final clarifying questions. That's what I do not want to do. And if it's 5 minutes, I don't know how long it'll take, but if it's allowing her the ability to come back in front of this board and say, I agree, I've looked at, I've reviewed, I'm okay, that's where I would rather check that box as opposed to skip that box. So that's, and I'll go with the final board's decision, but that's my opinion.
Well, I think a mitigating factor is we can't make a decision now because we
Can't
haven't.
make one now, so if you.
We haven't done all those steps, but Chris, you've offered an opportunity, this is an abutting landowner.
Mhm.
So a notice to abutting landowner said this is before us and that we plan to,
I mean, there was another abutting landowner who came in on the Woodbridge side, but didn't really
The
have any
landowner
concerns
to
raised.
whom you're referring is not a Woodbridge lot?
it's Ansonia.
One of the properties that she owns has a small portion that's in Woodbridge, but the rest is in Ansonia.
The one we're referring to.
Mhm.
Oh, that may change my mind. But still.
And so so we can't do anything now, does that mean we have to wait till our November?
You have to wait till your November
Because
meeting,
you
so,
do the notice.
you know, if you choose to hold a hearing, it's not gonna push it out any further. It's just me doing legal notices, and it officially lets the public have the opportunity to speak. I mean, you're normally very gracious in letting members of the public who are here speak, even though they may not by statute be entitled to. But it's a formal way of saying, yes, we're inviting you to come and speak.
Yes.
I wanna make sure we get all the way around the horn here with people's views, in light of the fact that we have to continue this to November 7th anyway. Andrew?
In light of that, I don't see any harm in noticing it for a public hearing. Otherwise, given the size of these lots, I don't think it's necessary.
Jeff?
I don't see that we would really need to do it, but I'm fine with it since we can have, put it to next month. In that case, I'd be fine with a notice to the public.
Just some clarification for me. So normally you guys do not have a hearing for subdividing.
But, so we haven't actually had one. In the current makeup of this board, we haven't seen one, right?
Right, so under state statute, a subdivision is different than a re-subdivision. A subdivision is the initial taking of a parcel of land and dividing it into 3 or more pieces. By statute, it does not require a public hearing. However, if you take one of those pieces that you divide via a subdivision and then further divide it into other pieces, that's a re-subdivision, and that automatically under statute requires a public hearing. but the statutes allow a commission to hold a hearing on anything that it chooses.
And the past practice of this
And
planning and
past
zoning.
practice has always been that they've had a hearing.
So this lot wasn't part of a subdivision originally?
It's been in one piece since the inception of our subdivision regulations in 1953. And that's the test point. Subdivision is from when you adopted subdivision regulations and forward. So part of what he does is the applicant does, is they go back and do a title search to see, was this in one piece or not? And then that's how we determine whether it's a re-subdivision or a subdivision. In this particular case, it's a subdivision.
Agreed.
And the plots show proposed houses on each lot. Does that mean the person that's breaking this up is building houses on his own to sell it to somebody else?
I didn't quite hear your question.
There are, on each one of these lots, there's a proposed house block, so somebody's planning on putting a house in that area. Does that mean the guy that's subdividing this lot to 3 is planning on building homes on his own for
No.
resale?
No, he, like I said, it's up in the air. He has 2 daughters, whether they stay in Woodbridge or not is, they're in college bound. I think he's hoping they do. I think they may not. And the same with himself. He lives in Woodbridge right now. He may build in back of his mother's house as she ages out. But that's in question too. But I figure that he'll hold them till he finds out what their daughters want to do and put them on the market. They'll probably, I'm not sure if his daughters are going to stay. I'll have to, but they could put it, someone could come in and change it around. This shows that it can be built, but they may have built a different house. But where we kind of got the houses, they're nice house lots, and I expect it won't be too much different. I do suspect that the large lot, he probably will sell his nice house in Woodbridge for this house. And it's a matter of, what I go through with a lot of clients is like they say they want to downsize, but then they get just as big as they were. So they're not doing anything different. So we're going through that debate right now with the client. So where it ends up there, he'll probably hold on to the big lot just till he decides what he's going to do in life. Relatively young guy, so he has time to figure that out. But the other 2, I suspect they'll end up on the market.
And can you just give me on the open space, does that stay under this owner's ownership, or what happens to that open space?
Does that go to the Woodbridge Land Trust, or is there?
The open space can go any variety of places. It can be given to the town if it's offered to the town and the town chooses to accept it. There are also some nonprofits in town, such as the Woodbridge Land Trust. And so if the town said no, then the land trust might say yes, because if you look at the map, their land trust does own property. I think it's the land trust, yeah, Woodbridge Land Trust does own property that abuts the open space, but interestingly enough, in Ansonia. So Woodbridge has some land in Ansonia.
So who makes that decision?
That's,
The owner?
You guys, yeah.
the purview is with you. Your subdivision regulations say you can, you require open space unless a waiver is requested. In this case, they're offering open space, and then it can be determined in the course of your decision where that open space goes. So you need to know, does the town want it? Does the land trust want it?
Which reinforces the potential position of having a public hearing, because somebody could come from the land trust in the town and petition the planning and zoning and say what they wanted to have done with that. Is that right?
You don't need a public hearing to do that. We could
Do that.
invite them in this process to say, have Chris reach out to those potential.
Or you can say to the applicant, before our next meeting, can you tell us who it will go to?
That would be helpful.
And am I interpreting the drawing correctly that the open space is towards the rear of lot 2 and 3, but also wraps around the west side of lot 3, all the way
Right.
up to Rimmon Road?
Yep.
Yeah, I want to give access to that open space in the back there.
So you could, so it envisions the potential for a walking path from Rimmon Road all the way to the back.
And what is on the Ansonia side, does anybody know? Is that
That's the lady who came. She has a house.
the whole thing?
Oh, no, the upper portion is the land trust, the Woodbridge Land Trust.
Up here?
Um,
The south side of the open space. And then the
So
west
there's
side of lot
private
3.
properties to the town owns a piece that comes in it. Okay, if you start from Rimmon Road, you have Jean and Doreen Froman on Rimmon Road on the left-hand side of this parcel. Above that, that's the town of Woodbridge. And then to the back side, it's owned by Nancy Judd and David Kosak. And then as it goes around to the side, then it's the Woodbridge Land Trust. And then coming back down to Rimmon Road, it's Judith Hershaft.
And on the Ansonia line, next to the open space to the west side of lot 3, is that residential? I'm looking at picture 2, page 2.
The land trust owns the upper portion. As you can see, there are like 3 lots shown down towards the bottom where you see lines going off.
Are you on which
Those are
page?
residential lots.
You're on page 1, Chris?
I'm on page 1, yep. So it gives you 3 addresses, 12 Deerfield, 16 Deerfield, and 1 Rimmon. So 1 Rimmon has a house on it. What's shown is 12 Deerfield, I believe, has a house on it, right? Ellen?
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
And then the one in the middle, I believe, is vacant.
Okay. You should be looking at page 1. Okay. So this is the Woodbridge Land Trust that they own in Ansonia. We were talking about earlier.
Right.
All right. Thank you.
And then there are 3 parcels that are out in front, which all have houses on them, right?
Yes.
So, the 3 like in holdings that you see along Rimmon Road, those are existing lots that all have houses.
So back to our public hearing question. The 2 options that I see are either to hold a public hearing, which we would make a motion right now and direct Chris to put a notice and notice for next hearing, or next regular meeting. Or we can direct Chris to provide notice to abutting landowners of this subdivision and request that they submit comments about it, either in writing or, Chris, would we give them an opportunity to show up on the 7th? I mean, that's my question.
I mean, if you're gonna do that,
If you're gonna do
just
that,
hold a hearing.
Right. So to give us 2 options, option A is a normal public hearing. Option B would be a writing to the abutting landowners, please submit written comments on this proposal and not have a ability for them to come and speak. Anyone have it? We have to do all of this anyway next month because we can't decide it yet. So anyone strongly prefer option A, public hearing in our normal?
I do.
I don't feel strongly about it. I would be just as comfortable with option B. They're large parcels of land and provide additional reasonable level of development. So I don't feel strongly about option A. I'd probably vote for either one of them, hearing what other people have to say. Sorry, Paul. You have to say something. Come on, Paul.
I'm just watching you.
Argue my head.
Entertainment. You're arguing with yourself. Keep going. Should be a lawyer.
Paul, any,
I think option B is fine. Or
you know,
get notice.
Definitely B.
so we have 1 for option A. Andrew?
Which was A and B again?
A is a regular public hearing, B is just written notice to the abutting landowners.
I'm fine with B.
Jeff?
I'll make a motion that we go with item B.
So a motion's been made to item B to do a written notice to abutting landowners regarding this proposed subdivision. Any second?
Second.
Moved and second, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of option B, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Any abstentions? So we're opting for option B. Thank you all.
Well done, Mr.
And
Chair.
Jim, can you chit chat to the Conservation Commission and,
Yeah,
Yep.
we'll try to get something.
yeah.
And Chris, you'll make sure we dot all our i's, cross all our t's on who else
I will
needs
do
to
so,
see
yeah.
this. Thank you.
See you.
Okay, to our work session, so thank you. Luciani Properties is postponed until next time, so in our work session, we have before us the application from Anytime Sports. So commission members, your reactions, thoughts on the application for this recreation and fitness indoor soccer facility.
I think it's great. Another thing we need in Woodbridge, keep people here. I'm all for it.
I'm in favor of that as well.
Agreed. Kathy?
I am in favor, I just want to make sure that the safety concerns are addressed, only because I'm kind of familiar with those facilities.
And is that something we can craft into our directive to them or approval?
That's what I was asking, I wasn't sure if there was some type of, I know you're doing that, I know you're doing all you could, so,
Yeah,
Which
you
we
can't
can't
talk.
actually.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
We're at our,
Um,
unfortunately at our stage where we can't talk to you.
sorry. But it's just I'm not sure if there's some type of, a sign off by a sports facility engineer that, yeah, this is fine, this is safe, to play in, to play soccer in.
Wouldn't the insurance company probably require that? I mean,
I don't know, I'm just bringing it up. I just would want that to,
Yeah, I assume that as you're venturing from tennis into a more contact sport, their
Yeah.
insurance company will be very interested in
Sure,
the
and-
activities going on and will,
That would be part of any underwriting process.
okay.
Can I ask the chair a question?
Sure.
Is it TPZ's general responsibility to ask questions about business cases, oriented towards a business case, or about safety of what's going on inside a building, such as the soccer building?
So, Chadi, that's a great sort of question. We have to make sure Chadi also has a copy of our rules if you don't. Which is why I keep this like hard
And
copy.
I would just say, if you can talk a little louder so that they can pick it up too.
Sorry.
It's
Yeah.
okay.
Or you bring the microphone closer to you. Yeah, so our special exception rules, ask us to, our threshold for granting a special exception, we shall give consideration to, but not be limited by the following, which include the health, safety, and welfare of the public in general and the immediate neighborhood in particular, compliance with the plan of conservation and development, the location and size, the nature and intensity of the use, safety and intensity of traffic, the scale of the site and structures, the harmony and appropriateness of use in the site, and compliance with the zoning regulations and site plan objectives, etc. So, and if we decide we can impose conditions and safeguards, we can have reasonable conditions and safeguards related to the factors that I just read out, that we in our approval sort of document. So this does have a broad health and safety is something we're concerned about. In the zoning context, that's probably less about what's going on inside the building. It's more about the building's, activities that are emanating out from the building. So it's probably on the edge of where we can be dictating things, but I think, I don't know, Chris, you should stop me if I'm getting out of my comfort zone here in that.
I think it's the applicant's responsibility to ensure that how they're doing it, it's their liability. And I think you have to be cautious about opening a liability for the town by saying that you want to ensure that there's no, because then if something happens and you've made that condition, then that may or may not open the town. versus, you know, looking at traffic and signage and all those other things that normally you would be looking at.
Yeah, so I think that's a good sort of caution for us, that we do have a lane that we try to sort of stay in the world of sort of zoning and site plan and approval. That's not to say that we are a curious board, we have nice applicants in front of us, we're curious about their business and what they're doing, and that helps us understand better what, you know, what's going on. And this applicant was very, you know, forthcoming and had their, what they were getting, what they're planning to do, and that helps us sort of better understand those big, broad sort of questions of what's going to happen, things about, but they always, I think, have to come back to our core of, are we concerned about traffic? Are we concerned about emissions or activities or things that are happening from the property into other properties? I think less so of what's going on inside the property.
Thank you.
I'm in favor. It sounds like another great, you know, amenity we need. Indoor soccer is wildly popular, and so having another place to do that in town.
It's good for Woodbridge.
Yeah.
By a business that's already there.
Any other discussion, thoughts, reactions? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Chris, who is voting? We have too many.
Oh.
But you can vote, I think.
She's an alternate. If you want, she can vote this time. You're kind of getting your feet wet tonight, so you're going to be here other meetings. We'll have you vote the next time. That's okay.
That's fine by me.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the application? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Staying.
Great. Congratulations.
Thank
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. We're excited for you, and can't wait to see the new opportunity down there.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right. Let's wrap up with anything, Andrew, from the world of Scrog.
Yeah, there was a meeting on September 15th.
Can you come a little closer? Thank you.
There was only one action item. It's a proposed zoning regulation amendment in Milford with respect to Corridor Design Development District 3. And that involved multifamily residential buildings and the conditions and safeguards related to them and changes in that regulation, and it was found that it had no negative intermunicipal impact, nor an impact upon the environment of the Long Island Sound, and that report was returned to Milford as such. And that was it.
Thank you. Any questions for Andrew? Hearing none, seeing none. Chris, anything from your role as zoning enforcement officer?
No. And I didn't do your minutes, so you got a night out on that. They're midway through. They're long.
That was the minutes from our September 6th
Yeah.
meeting. Okay, so we'll look for those at the next meeting. Anything else?
No.
I just have a sort of personal sort of question. I appreciated our applicant coming here for a special exception on a part of our regulations, which seems to be fairly devoid of any guidance, and it made me wonder, why are we approving this as a special exception at all? I'm just curious. I don't know if this is the appropriate time to talk about that,
Because
but,
in the table, that's what it identifies that it requires.
no, I know that, but there was some decision made to make that choice of having a fitness center require a special exception?
Most of you weren't here when these regs were redone. And when they were redone, they were in part based, no, initially, they were cloned from Hamden's regs. So Hamden had many different things, and when they came over here, everything didn't get cleaned up perhaps as closely as it should have. And so that's why we really need to look at them and decide,
We're,
what do you wanna do?
we're still scheduled to do that in November?
You, at the moment, yeah, and that's something that you should decide whether you wanna do. I mean, I don't know that you wanna push it to December, given that I don't know how big a hearing you'll have on 110 Luciani in November or not, and being mindful of, I think you wanna be fresh when you discuss the regs.
The other thing we've hunted to this point, is consideration of cannabis.
Yeah. And is there a clock ticking on our action on cannabis that may turn to a default without us knowing?
The default is that if you don't have any regs, we treat it as a retail use,
And with that,
just a regular
that's
retail
already
use.
ticking, that's the
Already
status
ticking, that's
right
already
now.
there. If somebody came in when they can, that's the way I would have to, receive it.
So you're already
There
at
is
default.
no, if you wanna have a moratorium, you can always do a moratorium if that's an avenue you choose to pursue. You do have to have a public hearing on that. And there is language that's out there that you can clone from other towns that have done it. Typically, they're only done for a period of 6 to 9 months to enable you to then decide, do you wanna regulate it, do you wanna prohibit it, what do you wanna do? So it's not a, okay, we'll have a 4-year moratorium on this, not gonna work that way.
But even that highlights to me this question of why cannabis is currently a retail, use under our regs by default, because we've gone past
As opposed to what?
regulating like a liquor store or other,
Nice.
like actually
Or an
having
adult-
some,
You know,
Only
an
because
adult
it's not a liquor
establishment.
store.
right.
What'd you say, Andrew?
I said only because it's not a liquor store, it's not otherwise defined, so.
When, as not otherwise defined, it is retail. I don't know why we've defined sports and
Right.
to require special exception, which is the highest standard of review that we place on anything.
Couldn't you make the same argument that cannabis is similar to cigarettes?
Could, and we don't currently regulate vaping stores or other sorts of places. But we haven't had that,
Yeah, I get it.
discussion,
It's all new.
and yet we spent time reviewing a fitness center today. I'm just sort of curious.
I think at a prior meeting, maybe in June or July, I don't remember at this point, I had said that, we were discussing, this was after that presentation by that gentleman who I think is acting as a representative for whoever, who's a lawyer.
He's from the Connecticut Bar Association, they have a subcommittee on cannabis.
There you go.
He co-chairs.
Co-chair subcommittee cannabis. And there was a discussion, if you all recall, there was a discussion because what it breaks down to is depending on the category of establishment you allow in your town, whether it's cultivation, I think with cultivation with one of the categories, the town can retain 3% tax, the town itself, right? So if you have any other kind of business, any other category of like if it's just a retail establishments that's selling cannabis products, it's only the state that's taxing that, and then whatever nominal amount, I don't know, whatever commercial might pay in this town, but so there was a discussion of that. We got educated on that point, and I guess my point is I'm trying to say that after that we had a discussion amongst the group. I think you were there. I'm not sure I believe you were there. And I had said I felt like it was something that we talked about polling. We talked about creating some kind of online poll, that sort of thing. And I think at that point I had volunteered to try and spearhead that. And unfortunately, I made zero progress in that regard, and that's largely because my work has been overwhelmingly busy, and had some things in my actual life, personal life, that have prevented me from doing that. So I regret to report to the commission that I do not have a survey in the works. I believe you even discussed us working together on that. You know, it's just life getting in the way. So, it's not to say I'm not interested in it, it's just that I don't have the resources, to put into spending extracurricular time on it, beyond what we already do for these hearings, so.
Chris, maybe you could do this for us before the next meeting and find out what clock is ticking and what happens if we don't do anything. And then if we don't want to do anything, then we would just let the
So,
clock.
we
I
already
think
know,
it's a retail
we already-
establishment.
we already know the answer.
And what is the date for that then?
It's now.
It's now. If you don't do anything,
Today or like December 31st
Like,
or?
like today, like last week, like 2 months ago, like,
Then it's already, but.
No,
but
no,
keep in
no, all I'm
mind-
saying is if we don't do anything right now, until we do something, if we do something, it's a retail establishment.
Right,
Right.
but keep in mind that the licenses, I think that process of this, who the state awards licenses to, I think is, you know, that was a long process because there were various steps involved.
So the likelihood of anyone actually coming to
forward
us
is very low.
is very low
Yeah.
right now.
Okay.
I think I saw in the news that Norwalk, you know, approved that they would allow for 3 retail establishments. And they also did some regs about where in the town you could actually consume smoke, you know, you could smoke marijuana.
Okay.
Where in the town, like some parks and whatnot, with, you know, with prohibition, kind of like in New Haven.
Through zoning,
I don't know if it was their zoning commission that approved that or if it was their.
the use side of it. The zoning would have approved the number of retail, their distance
Yeah.
from schools, from each other, et cetera.
Right,
Like we
right.
treat other, either adult or liquor or other establishments. It's late, we don't have to solve this now, I just want to sort of highlight
so do you want that on your agenda again for next month?
a discussion of it.
Continued discussion of it, yes.
Yes, let's put it on the agenda for next one, so we can do this more formally than me just raising it at the last minute, which I know is, I'll call that frowned upon.
And I know Glenn Shalder will be getting back to me. Do you want him to come to your meeting in November, or do you want to push that to, because you all had the homework of looking at what he had written and you were gonna discuss with it.
He's our consultant who's doing our cleanup of our regs to find things like we found tonight of,
What's, next month, we've got cannabis, next month, we've got 110 Luciani
You have
and
110
Ribbon Road.
Luciani, you're gonna make a decision presumably on 356 Ribbon. And
Actually, December, because the regs can be a longer discussion.
so you want him to come in December,
Yeah.
does that sound,
That sounds good.
but
So
everybody
everyone-
still has the homework assignment of looking at. what
can you
Glenn-
refresh and resend
I will
that, so it
resend
gets to
that.
the top of our inbox, which would be
Yeah.
helpful?
I can do that.
Chalder has gone through and highlighted.
Oh, with the reg, yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
I just have one other comment.
Sure.
As in the role of the Housing Committee, and the idea that we should be working together more with P and Z, and since I am on P and Z and I chair the Housing Committee, maybe it would be good to have regular reports out, by me to P and Z, the Housing Committee, just to make sure that we are connected with what's going on in the committee.
I think that would be terrific. Chris, can we add that to our SCROG zoning enforcement officer report from the housing committee? In theory, I'm also on our representative of the,
Housing committee?
not on the housing committee,
You were
no.
supposed to act, you were supposed to find out if anybody else wanted to.
No, I know, no one wanted to be
Oh, well,
on
we
the
tried.
committee on
You're doing a great
on
job.
publicly owned properties. I was supposed to go to their meeting this month, but it was right before Rosh Hashanah, or it was day of Rosh Hashanah, so I couldn't go, so. But I will go to their next one, and then I will report about it.
I will add HOOPUP and housing, it's just housing committee. now.
It's just the Housing Committee.
And we don't have anyone on the 2030 committee, correct?
I don't even know what that is.
My wife's on it, if that matters.
Yeah. I think it's in the news.
It's okay. All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Moved in second, all in,
Who seconded?
Robert,
Oh, okay.
this one.
any discussion?
I
Hearing-
call you Robert, he's Robert.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Thank you all tonight. Chadi, welcome. You hopefully got a sense of what we're doing here.